about, yet again, another Ferris wheel. I want you to ignore that equation, okay? The reason is, the equation's great to have, yes, and probably easier, but that means nothing if you don't understand how to find it, okay? So we have another Ferris wheel. It has a diameter of 70 feet, and it takes 4 minutes to complete one rotation. Okay, we're on page 19. Passengers board from a platform of 10 feet above the ground. Okay, so again, ignore the equation. What are some things you could tell me based on what's given to us? Million. Okay, good. So the period is 4. Okay, so the period is 4. Okay, how can we figure out our increments? Go ahead, James. Dividing by 4. So very simply, we have 1, 2, 3, and then 4. So that is our time in minutes. Josh, what else do we know? Okay, how'd you get it? Mm-hmm. So the minimum is 10 feet. Okay, that's where you get on. So 10 feet. So this is your height. And you guys also on the formatives too, you want to label your y-axis to help you out. Okay. Also word problems definitely. So to find your max, it's your diameter plus your minimum. Okay, so that's where we get 80 feet. Okay, that's where we get 80 feet. Right? So, how can I find, I know it's given to us, but how can I find it? How can I find our midline or amplitude? What can I do? Jason? Yeah. How do you find the radius? Good. So to find, and that is going to be our amplitude, right? Okay. Our amplitude is our radius. Yep, our amplitude is our radius. So we take our diameter and divide by 2, and that's how we get an amplitude of 35. Okay. So our amplitude is 35 feet. Okay. So the midline, it's not the midline, God bless you. If we take 35 plus 10, 45 would be our midline. Okay? So our midline, 35 plus 10 is 45, or 80 minus 35. Yes?
Just a question. For the maximum and minimum, will they always be the increments of what the radius is? Because like 45 plus 35 is 80. 45 minus 10.
Mm-hmm.
Will always be that increment?
Just like on our graphs, right? You have your midline, and then the distance from the midline to your max is your amplitude. It's going to be the same. Okay? So the period is, okay? So they're telling us to start this ride, we start at the 10-foot platform. Okay? Then, if isn't the 10-foot platform our minimum? So are we going to have a cosine graph or a sine graph? It tells us, I know, but cosine, because we're starting at the minimum. So we have 1, 3, 4. And that confirms our equation that is given to us. Okay? The amplitude is 35. The midline is 45. Okay? And it's negative because we're starting at the minimum value. Okay? Right. So some questions. What is the height after 1 minute? Go ahead, Liv. Good. 45 feet. Excellent. What is the height after 3 minutes? Go ahead, Liv. 45 feet. And what is the height after 4 minutes? 10 feet. Good. Okay. When is the Ferris wheel 10 feet above the ground? Go ahead, James. Careful. Check again. Excellent. Good. 0 minutes, even 4 minutes, which confirms start to finish. Okay. When is the Ferris wheel 45 feet? Jason? 1 minute and 3 minutes. Okay. So again, a little bit easier in terms of all we had to use is our graph for this one. We didn't have to use the calculator at all. Okay, so it gets right to it. Any questions? Okay. For the next one, I apologize. It's split between 2 pages. So we're going to do, we're going to fill all of this out. And then when we get to the questions, I'll ask you the questions, but keep this on the board to help. Okay. So we're looking at tides now, which is a little bit different. And by using a scale on the pier, the highest mark it reached was 22 feet. So what is that? Okay. So our maximum is 22 feet. Okay. The lowest mark it reached was 4. What is that? Okay. A full cycle takes 12 hours. What is that? The period. So what would our increments go up in? 3 is good. 3, 6, 9. Okay. So this is all the information given to us. Okay. For right now. How can we find what the midline is and or the amplitude? Jason? To find what?
Diameter, I'm still thinking about the Ferris wheel example. Double what the amplitude.
What do you mean? So what are we finding, the amplitude or the midline?
Oh, sorry, for the midline, you would take the difference with, no, sorry.
It's okay. Backtrack. Take a minute.
The amplitude, you would take the difference of the maximum and minimum and divide that by 2.
Mm-hmm.
And for the midline, you would take whatever, either add that amplitude to the minimum or subtract it.
Excellent. Okay. So there's 2 things I'm going to show you and I want you to write down. Okay. To find, think of it, Jason said it perfectly. Think of, instead of tides, think of a Ferris wheel, right? So if I go to the above one, my diameter was 70. Well, how do I find that? The max minus the min, right? So to find our amplitude, you would take the max minus the min and divide by 2. So what's 22 minus 4? 18. Divide by 2. 9. So the amplitude would be 9 feet. Okay? The amplitude would be 9 feet. So we could do exactly what Jason said. What's 4 plus 9? 13. That would give us our midline. But you could also find your midline by taking the max plus the min, divide by 2. What's 22 plus 4? 26, divide by 2. 13. So either way, okay? So the midline here is 13 feet, okay? So before we fill this out, okay, on the next page, you will see, okay, and I'm going to leave this up here so we can fill out the graph, and you guys, after this next part, will fill out the graph as well, okay? Now, right now, given the situation, what is the value of A? 9, right? That's what we know right now. The value of A right now is 9. What is the value of D? So A is our amplitude, D is our midline. 13, okay? Now, this is a key piece of information. Consider low tide to have occurred at 2 a.m., okay? So if we go back, consider low tide to occur at 2 a.m. So I'm using my y-axis as my starting point, okay? If low tide occurs at 2 a.m., which value would it be?
No, the minimum is 4.
It would be 4, okay? Because that's where it says, if you read the description, low tide is 4.
How come you don't 2 in the low where
It's
you
on
start?
the X or Y.
2 is on the x-axis. This means x equals 0, your starting point, okay? And again, could I have done this? Say if I, for example, done my regular cosine graph, okay? Say if I did my regular cosine graph and put 2 a.m. here, you could, okay? It's just going to be shifted over, so that's why we're always starting from the y-axis, okay? So, if 2 a.m. is 0, what is going to happen now to my A value? If I'm starting at that minimum value, what would it be? It would be a reflection. So your equation, -9 cosine pi over 6x plus 13. So typically, all of our functions, okay, regarding word problems will be our negative cosine, okay, most likely. Unless it's a Ferris wheel saying that we're starting at the 3 o'clock position, then it would be a sine function, okay? Yeah.
How did you get pi?
Okay. So the period is 12, right? Period is 12. So I know 12 hours. I know the period equation is 2 pi over b, right? So to find b, it's 2 pi over the period. So 2 pi over 12 gives you the pi over 6. Okay? All right. So let me finish. I'm going to hold the graph up here. You guys stay where you are or finish your graph. Okay. Here is your graph. And I'm going to ask your questions for you, so you don't have to keep flipping back and forth. Okay. So here's my graph. You have the equation on the other page. When, if this is low tide at 2 a.m., okay, 3 hours later, what would that time be? 5 a.m. 3 hours later, 8 a.m., then 11 a.m., 2 p.m. Okay, because a full cycle is 12 hours too. Okay, so I crossed out the time, the scale, 3, 6, and 9, and 12 to replace it with our times. Okay, so let me read these questions to you. I'll leave the graph up here for you guys to answer, to look up, instead of flipping back and forth. So here's low tide at 2 a.m. When is the next high tide? Yep. 8 a.m. Okay, so jot down 8 a.m. After that, when would be the next high tide? Good. Excellent. Okay, so the first high tide is 8 a.m. Why is the next high tide 8 p.m.? Yellow. Excellent. Okay, it's a full cycle. So if I go back to my picture here, 8 a.m. is the highest point, and this doesn't look like the highest point, but on yours it looks like the highest point. It's 22 feet. If I go through the full cycle, I'm going to reach 22 feet again 12 hours later at 8 p.m. Okay? The next question, what times during that day. So you're looking for 12 a.m. currently, or 2 a.m. currently, all the way to 2 a.m. the following day. Okay? When will the water be 13 feet on the scale? Give me one. 5 a.m. What else? What time?
11 a.m.
Okay.
5
And then 1 p.m. Excellent. Oops. 5 a.m., 11 a.m. That's seen on our picture. 12 hours later. Good. Okay, and we don't even have to flip back and forth. What will the height of the waves be at 5 a.m.? 13 feet. What will the height of the waves be at 8 p.m.? 22 feet. Excellent. Good, you guys. Nice job. Okay. Any questions? I want you to try one on your own. Number 4, use your notes, obviously, to help. Okay, I want you to try number 4 first. Okay, you might need your calculator for some of them, but try number 4 first. All right? All right, let's go through this. What is my maximum? 10. Okay, so my max is 10. What is my minimum? 2 feet. Okay. What is the period? 12. Good. Okay, so we have the same. Okay. What is my amplitude? 4. Good. So therefore my midline is? Excellent. Good. Value of A, and it would be negative since we're starting at the low tide. Okay. So we're starting at low tide at 12 a.m. Okay. Good. How many of you guys did have that? Good, good, good. Okay, so your equation, -4 cosine pi over 6 x plus 6. Excellent. Okay. What times during the day will the water be 6 feet on the scale? Yeah.
Is it west? Oh, because that's
Midline. Yep. Yep. Vertical shift is always the midline. Yep. Yep. 'Excellent. Good. 3 a.m., 9 a.m., 3 p.m., 9 p.m. Excellent. How many of you guys did get that? Okay. Did anyone find B? What times during the day will the water be 8 feet on the scale? Jason?
I got 4.1 to 19 and 7.8.
Okay. How many of you did get that tried it? Okay. Josh?
I tried it. It's wrong, but I got 8.
8 is one of them.
It's,
Okay.
I
How do we do this, though?
plugged it 8 in for X.
Oh, no. Sorry.
Yeah, that's,
Sorry.
I got
But 8 ends up being, or roughly around 8. It would be Y. So, yep. Mm-hmm.
Subtracted the difference. The area between 3 and 9.
Right, let's try it. All right. So Y1, Y2. And guys, with the scale, you really don't have to think too much about it, or the window, because it does it for you. So, yep. And after this.
I did not put
Pi.
I outside.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So A, make sure we're in radians, right? Everyone's in radians from last time. To go into radians, if you're not, check mode, radians should be highlighted. Okay? And if it is, then you're good to go. Okay. So now, y equals, I want you to type in 8, okay, or y2, it doesn't matter. y2, you're going to enter your equation, -4 cosine, second pi over 6, not 16, 6, x plus 6. Okay, calculate. So you need one too? Okay, so make sure we have this in. Okay, everyone okay? I'll give you a minute. So then your window, okay, I'll go back to this if you need help with it. Window, x max should be 0, x min should be 0, x max should be 12. Your scale should be 3, because that's every 3 hours, so you can see that. Okay? Then your minimum, y min should be 0, your y max should be 10. Okay? And then press graph. What? What? Well, I'm not there yet. I want to make sure everyone's has the graph. Okay? Yeah, you,
I forgot the -4.
mm-hmm. You still probably could have seen or got the same thing. Okay, so to find these two intersection points, second trace, number 5, okay, mine's in the middle of my blue line. I'm just going to scooch it over so it's close to that intersection, and then hit enter 3 times. Okay, so x equals 4 represents what time? 4 a.m. Okay. Yeah.
That doesn't make the graph, it's just like 2 straight lines.
You're in radians, right?
I
Right. I'll check yours in 1 second. Okay.
could have also before edges or
Mhm. Mhm. What? What time is y equals? Y equals 8. So that's 8 feet when it's on the scale. We're only looking for x right now. So second trace, number 5. I'm going to move my cursor eventually to the other side. And then I'm going to hit enter 3 times. We got x equals 8. So we have the times 4 a.m. and then 8 a.m. then and then. Excellent. Good. Okay. Yes. Yep. Okay. So that's when you can't really see it on the graph and you need to use your calculator for that. Okay. We are going to try some practice on the last 2 pages because you're going to try on your own. I just want to show you because this scale is just awful. on the next page. This is positive 1/2 and negative 1/2. Okay. Then it goes pi over 6. Some of you could read it, but some of you can't. Pi over 6. Then pi over 3. Then pi over 2. Then 2 pi over 3. Okay. So pi over 6, pi over 3, pi over 2, 2 pi over 3. Okay, if you can't see it. So you could work with somebody to go through the 6.6 practice, pages 21 and 22. I will be around in a little bit to pass out the review. Your test is moved to Thursday. Okay, let me just show you the calendar. Okay, today we finished applications. Okay, we will review, change this to the test. Okay, your final task is due on Tuesday. Okay, some of you have already submitted it. Get it in. Be done. Okay, your final task is due on Tuesday. We will have the trig test on Thursday. Okay, and then that will give us, we'll start reviewing. We will probably split this day, half for the test and then half for the final. Okay, to kind of get started with that stuff. All right, questions, comments, concerns? Yellow. Yep. Jason, question?
So if it's 2x over 3, it's the full cycle
Go ahead. 2 pi over 3?
by 2 to the
No.
what?
2 pi over 3, right? You do 2 pi divided by 2 pi over 3.
Would that just be 4 pi over 3?
Mm-mm. You multiply by the reciprocal. Yeah. Wait, this is a big question mark. I doubt it. I don't know. We have enough in there. I don't think we need it. It might be like a little formative check-in, do now situation. But I think we're good. I don't think we need any more. Yeah, maybe like a little formative. You will get a formative of some sort on Tuesday. Okay? One word problem and 1 or 2 graphing. Okay? All right. So you may get started on 21 and 22. Okay? You can work with somebody. I will be around to pass out the review very shortly. Okay?